Hello, everyone. Dr. Anna Cabeca here on Couch Talk, and today we're going to talk about an issue that affects so many women around the world, and at all ages, honestly. And we're going to talk about the hormonal imbalance called Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome, PCOS for short, and the acne a relationship to it, like how acne is such an issue for women, certainly, of course, in our teenage years and puberty on, right? But then also, again, peaks sometimes in our menopause years as our hormones start to fluctuate again and acne starts to flare up. And we're like, wait, I've had beautiful skin for 30 years. Why am I getting acne? And so I have today with us Robin Nielsen, a dear, one of my dearest friends and colleagues and co-founder of Sexy Younger You program that we had the blessing to run for years. We did 3 summits, huge summits, interviewing hundreds of specialists as well. We've had the Sexy Younger You retreats that were just amazing. Robin is a nutritionist and so much more. She is a coach in both the health space and the business space, and really brings together all aspects of lifestyle medicine for her clients, but is walking the talk continuously. She's coming to us today from California, and I love her very much, and her husband. She has 2 beautiful sons, a growing family, and it's great to have you here today, Robin.
Oh, it's so great to be here. You're just such a dear friend, and I'm just so grateful to be able to share today about PCOS and acne as we age and acne in all its forms, because that was a big deal for me.
Well, let's start with that. Let's talk about your story and then how you've gotten into your specialty now with helping women with polycystic ovarian syndrome and healing that hormonal imbalance. Let's start with your story, and then we can say, I'd love for you to go into what PCOS really is.
Great. Awesome. So, looking back, it's really interesting because, as kids, we don't know things aren't normal, right? So I had kind of the traditional pathway. My period started at 12, and then I got acne, and then I had a lot of digestive problems, and then all of a sudden brain fog came in and low energy, and I felt like I was kind of, slugging through my life. It was hard, it felt kind of hard. And I was constipated, and one event comes to mind. I got invited by my hot, sexy lover, who was my boyfriend at the time, to actually go on a date. We got to go on a private plane and fly, just a couple hours away to have dinner. We were just checking out the plane because he was getting his pilot's license at the time. And I just remember, I couldn't wear a scoop neck because I had acne on my chest and my back. So, I was kind of dressed up to here. And then when I boarded the plane, it was a small private jet. When I boarded the plane, I had such stomach cramps, and my whole abdomen just felt horrible. So I had to unbutton my pants so I could just sort of survive the trip. So instead of really being present and in love with the crazy, amazing adventure, I was a mess. I just felt terrible. And I think I was maybe 19 at the time. And then in my early 20s, I started getting arthritic symptoms in my hands. My moods were always all over the place, and I self-medicated like crazy, right, with sugar and coffee and, whatever I could get my hands on, because it's all about trying to feel good right now, so I totally get it when women go for things that help them feel better right now. And then I continued to have acne all the way into my late 30s, early 40s. Like, it was my nemesis, right? How can I hack this? And it wasn't horrible. My acne was not cystic acne, but I always felt really warm. I always had acne on my face. And, as a teenager, I just avoided social situations because I just felt really ugly. Acne, hair thinning, acne, facial hair, weight, all these things that show themselves to the outside world, it really affects our self-esteem. They're kind of big psychological issues, of our time.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so, and acne acne does have no age limit, as well as it affects our ego. It's one of the first things. It's, unfortunate that we as women and just thinking, we want to focus on our beauty, but when we have just even that little flaw, it seems to weigh us down. So tell us more, like, how did you get to the bottom of it?
So, So I actually had a mentor. She was my father's physician and endocrinologist, who I followed for quite a while, and I sort of learned the ins and outs of hormones from her, and then I was able to go back to school and sort of biohack myself and figure things out and heal. And I've come to learn, being in the polycystic ovarian world now, that hot flashes not only happen in post-menopause, but they also happen in perimenopause, and they also happen for women in their 20s, right? So same thing with acne. We can experience any of these symptoms of hormone imbalance at any age, really. So yeah, I was able to go back to school, and I think it's, as with a lot of the symptoms that we get along the hormone imbalance spectrum, it can be different for every woman. So you really have to look for what I call the hormone deal breakers. Those things that are causing constant stress to your body, that keep cortisol, our stress hormone, elevated, and hence insulin, our blood sugar hormone, elevated. So anytime cortisol comes up, anytime we're stressed for any reason whatsoever, our insulin also comes up. And, chronically high levels of cortisol and insulin, have this huge inflammatory effect on our bodies.
Yeah, definitely. And so that major hormone being insulin, and that's a huge player in polycystic ovarian syndrome. So let's talk about polycystic ovarian syndrome. Now, over the past, several years now, several years now, you've been really working with this special community of clients, of women with polycystic ovarian syndrome. I almost said of women and men with polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Well, men have it too. They totally do. I mean, obviously, they don't have cysts on their ovaries, but that's a misnomer anyway.
Right, it is. It's, the ovaries are instant bystanders of the hormonal imbalance, right? Yeah. They're the innocent bystanders.
It's just a symptom. It's just another symptom. Yeah.
Right. And you can have polycystic ovarian syndrome, right? Because it's a misnomer, and not have polycystic ovaries. As a gynecologist, ultrasounding, thousands of women, I can attest to that. You can have insulin resistance. You can have every other symptom of polycystic ovarian syndrome, be in this metabolic syndrome category, and not have cyst on your ovaries or the thickening of the ovaries. Let's go into polycystic ovarian syndrome. Let's talk about it and talk about the underlying hormonal imbalances. And I want our listeners to know that you're going to give some 6 steps at the end, some really key points, action steps that even, that all of us can take to really optimize our health hormone balance. It's going to affect us, improve our hot flashes, improve our skin condition, improve our metabolism, right? Give us that hourglass shape and all those good things.
Yes, absolutely. So, I never knew that I had polycystic ovary syndrome. Who would have got, I was never, I never went to the doctor. I was never examined for that. I never knew about it. It was something that I learned much later in my life, learned about, but it is the number one health condition that women are diagnosed with today. It's at least 1 in 5, and that's a really conservative number. We think it's more like 1 in 3. And someone like me who has had acne a lot of her life, that's PCOS, right? That can be a definition of PCOS right there. So, it's just really symptoms of hormone imbalance. And it was named by 2 scientists, researchers, Leventhal and what was the other guy's name?
Stevens and Leventhal. Yeah.
Leventhal and somebody else. And they noticed these cysts, these ovarian cysts. And so they came up with sort of a group of symptoms that make up polycystic ovary syndrome. But I don't really, I really encourage women not to bother with the diagnosis, because it's hard to diagnose. And I think one of the reasons that it's become so common to diagnose is because, women come into the doctor's office and they say, I've got this unexplained weight gain, I have acne, or I'm growing facial hair, or my hair is thinning, or my menstrual cycles are irregular, or I can't get pregnant. I mean, they come in with all these things and the doctor's like, well, okay, you have PCOS. It's just a bucket, right? That all these symptoms get thrown into that are really more of a result of just hormone imbalance. And
well, we can say, Robin, it's the diagnosis of the day, right?
Yes.
And it's definitely the diagnosis. It's brought awareness, but like you said, it is just a symptom. Those are just a bucket of symptoms. We want to get to the underlying issue that's causing the symptoms in this population that's affected.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that every woman can relate at one time or another in their lives to, symptoms of hormone imbalance. Maybe it doesn't happen for you in your earlier years. Maybe you're acne free and your weight stays great. But if you live a pretty busy life, you're going to start experiencing some symptoms of hormone imbalance. And it's, so common here in the US. And we actually work with women all over the world. So we find that there are definitely pockets of, different cultures that really experience symptoms a lot more than others.
Let's go over that. Where are the pockets more common?
So India, for sure, is a really big area that suffers from PCOS. And also a lot of times the Jewish community or Israel is another big area. We have a lot of clients in the UK, right? UK, Canada. I think it really, it's a metabolic disorder. So like I say, there's kind of a spectrum. So it kind of depends on, how insulin resistant or how insulin sensitive your lineage is, how you deal with carbs, for instance. And then there's the whole, how your tribe, dealt with stress. I mean, I think one of the really cool things about women who, truly have a lot of symptoms of PCOS is that, look at all of our athletes. Women athletes, they have higher testosterone levels naturally. If you look closely at them, most of them have acne, right? They're rock stars. And I think, and there's also this sense of hypervigilance. And so, they survived when others didn't. But the hypervigilance, in our now can be a little bit of a detriment because you're always, always on alert. And that's stressful.
That's high stressful, especially with the inundation of news that we get to and awareness of what's going on around us. We're not isolated anymore. And one of the things I told my patients, like, especially as I would see these young girls come in and sometimes with all good intentions, the mom's bringing her in to be put on birth control because she's having horrible breakouts and her periods are uncomfortable and, painful and like, let's just knock them out. And I would tell these young girls, and plus the weight gain, as soon as puberty hits, 10, 20, 30 pounds of weight gain. And, having to sit down and really to be in the honored position to be able to say, look, you don't have fat genes, you don't have acne genes, you don't have, like, you're not destined to be dealing with this. You have Pocahontas genes, you have that Amazonian genes, you are designed to be out in nature, not sitting at a desk on your buttocks 12 hours a day, right. Under inside lighting versus outside lighting. You have the Pocahontas gene. So let's honor that natural tendency to be this, like, a woman out in nature, collecting, running, being, involved in sports and, leading other people because you have those genes. And I think that's really important. And once they see that in their mind, especially these young, it helps me. I always think I have Saharan genes. I can survive without food and water for months. I have those survival genes, Yeah. And, but it helps to get that picture. Like, yeah, I'm Pocahontas. I'm not, a fat acne ridden girl. You know what I mean? Right. And so that, and let's honor our design. We have to change our environment and our lifestyle.
Yeah. And that's
to
why
the best of our ability.
yeah, you turn things around so that they're so positive. And that's exactly right. It's so cute. One gal in our community she is really a rock star. And she had this aha moment. She said, I've been hungrier, hairier, and hornier than my husband, these past 25 years. She goes, this is a big aha moment for me. And that's not bad at all. It's how we frame it. And I love the whole Pocahontas thing. And, yeah, we're meant to make something happen in this lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's talk about how you address the clients in your community to how you're addressing the Pocahontas syndrome. I would call that PCOS. It should, be the Pocahontas syndrome. Let's talk about that. How do we convert them? How do we help them optimize their design, right? Their survival genes to become more insulin sensitive. Well, let's talk about we can go into a little bit about, how did it get this name, polycystic ovaries, right? Because it was, based on the insulin resistance. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Robin?
Well, the insulin resistance discovery, I think, came later, right? So the whole discovery of this bucket of symptoms that, that eventually got named PCOS, I think that, it was kind of blamed on the ovarian cyst, which we discovered later that it really has nothing to do with ovarian cysts, but it's how our body is responding to the lifestyle that we've created for it. So if we're getting cysts on our ovaries, we just have too much inflammation. So I had mentioned, and that's getting back to acne too, right? So acne is this overabundance of inflammation. So if you're suffering from acne like I was, your inflammation cup is just kind of overflowing. And that's how it is with all of the symptoms of PCOS. And it goes back to our, stress hormone cortisol is just elevated too much of the time for too long. And then what happens is, we start stealing certain hormones to make other hormones. So for instance, we stop making progesterone, which we know how important that is for feeling well and balancing out estrogen and testosterone and for brain health. And, it's our nature's Valium. And we just stop making it because we're making too many stress hormones. So we're making too much cortisol. Whenever insulin is up for an extended period of time, we just start making more testosterone. We make more androgens, right? And one thing about acne is that if you're suffering from acne, this is something I didn't know, but your skin is delicious. To those little P. acnes, to that bacteria, you have really delicious skin. So anytime your insulin is elevated and you start making more androgens, right? It's a really androgenic state. Then what happens is if you have delicious skin like I do, then you're just going to break out, right? You're just much more susceptible. So PCOS is all about.
Well, back to that delicious skin, because with insulin resistance, you have higher circulating levels of glucose at the cellular level. So that feeds the bacteria and makes it that, it's like, why have broccoli when you can have brownies?
It's a little tricky because it has been called diabetes of the skin, right?
Wow.
So there's definitely that element, and I absolutely believe in that. But there are times when you can clean up your diet, and you still, I have had. Myself included, I know so many people who think they're doing everything right and they still have acne breakout. So it does get a little bit complicated. And that's where, I come back to those hormone deal breakers, which are anything that keep your body stressed for any length of time. And those can be things like all the things, that we used to do in our Sexy Younger You programs, right? Can be something like anemias, maybe you're B12 anemic, or you're iron deficient, or it could be that you have this just low grade infection, bacterial or viral, which so many of us have, and we don't even know it, right? And our body's just constantly upregulated. Or maybe we're just in a toxic lifestyle. Maybe we have toxic friends. Maybe we have a toxic partner. Maybe we are just stuck in toxins. Maybe we have horrible body care products that we're using, or our household cleaning products, or maybe just your house is full of mold, right? And now you've got just this upregulated inflammation that is making your skin more delicious. Mm-hmm. There's so many different underlying deal breakers that can really increase inflammation.
So you touched on some key deal breakers: anemia, inflammation, and toxicity, whether endocrine disruptors, mold toxicity, chemical toxicities. What are some others?
Some other toxicities or
deal breakers, hormone deal breakers.
Oh my gosh, they're absolutely endless. Not eating. So one of the things I think that happens is we see how other people eat and we think, well, I should be able to eat like that, right? I was so jealous of other girls, teenagers who, looked so good, and they ate terrible, right? And I tried to do that, and it just didn't work for me. I remember, I was always battling my weight. I was always battling my acne. And so I, like most women, I thought, okay, I'll just stop eating and then I'll over-exercise. And guess what? It didn't work, right? It made my inflammation worse. So if you're not exercising properly, that's a hormone deal breaker, right? It's going to raise, chances are it's going to raise your stress hormones too much, right? Which was the case for me. I remember one day I went off to school. I was in college at the time, at UCSB, and I just had one bagel. I said, I'm just going to have one bagel today so that I won't gain weight and my skin will, look better. I'm really going to cut back. And I felt worse and more bloated than ever, right? It wasn't until years later that I realized I just can't eat wheat and gluten. But, it was quite a journey to figure that out.
Yeah, it just definitely takes a journey. Now, let's share the 6 steps to really create that hormone balance that you use with your clients with PCOS. And that really is generalized to all of us.
Yeah, and these are very targeted to acne for this specific talk, but they can be used for a lot of the symptoms of PCOS, and I actually have 9 steps for PCOS. So there are 3 skin factors that make up acne, and the first one are clogged oil ducts from too much keratin in the skin, and the second is too much sebum production from excess androgens, which are male hormones. It's kind of crazy they're called male hormones because we need them too, right? But that's a great way to describe what they are. And number 3 is just the P. acnes, the bacteria that colonize in the follicles of the skin and cause acne and inflammation. So that's kind of the foundation for acne. And usually for those who suffer from acne, your cell turnover is a little bit sluggish, right? And so that's what creates this just lovely environment for the bacteria to really thrive. They get trapped under the skin with their favorite food, right? And that creates the pustules and the pimples.
So you're saying P. acne?
Mm-hmm. P. acnes are the bacteria. It's Propionibacterium acnes. It's kind of a weird name, but that's what causes acne.
Okay. I think P for pesty acne, but that's the name of the bacteria. Okay, pesty, so the bacteria actually has acne in its name. I had no idea.
It does. Acnes, it's plural, P. acnes for short. And, we talked about blood sugar. You brought up some really good points about that. Whenever you have high cortisol, you have high insulin, and you have this high circulating blood sugar. So testing your blood sugar is really important. And that's, one of my 6. Testing is really important in general because I think I can tell people all day long that these are the things that they need to do, but for some reason when they test, they get it, right? So one of my favorite tests that we offer is the Dutch test. Do you know about the Dutch test?
Oh yeah, I've been using it for a while.
We love it. We've had super good response with it. In fact, we've had over 50 women take it. And one of the reasons I really like it is because what you can see is for a lot of women, acne can be caused by actually metabolizing your androstenedione, which is a male hormone, down the DHT pathway, right? Which is that really potent androgenic pathway. And so that's something that you can see on your Dutch test if it's important for you to see exactly what's going on. And again, when you raise insulin, you're making way more estrogen and way more testosterone, DHEA, androstenedione, all of those androgenic markers that then, raise inflammation. So it's this cascade that happens that you have to work really hard to get out of.
And at
So
least you can see that change. You can see that improvement with retesting.
exactly, which I love. And then you can
and it's
also,
at home, and it's urine, not blood.
right, and we do the complete, so you get your adrenals as well, so you can see, where your cortisol rhythm is and what's going on and how that's impacting your sex hormones. And so, you want to test for glucose, insulin, hemoglobin, A1C, triglycerides. Those are kind of my optimal blood work markers for blood sugar. And then food, right? Using food to balance hormones. So it's not only what you eat, but it's when you eat is super, super important. So, making sure that you get a healthy protein, fat, and carb every time you eat. And, there's a lot now about intermittent fasting, the ketogenic diet. There are all these different tools that you can use short term to see some really nice results. But you have to be careful, because if your adrenals are pretty fatigued, and it's a little bit of a misnomer, but if your energy and your inner light, your inner fire is dimmed and it's just kind of sputtering, you might need to eat a little bit more before you eat less. Because calorie restriction initially can be really hard on kind of a really tired HPA axis. But there's some great tools to use. So just, you just want to make sure that you eat within an hour of waking. Anna, one of my favorite interviews that we had was with Dr. Jack Cruz. And do you remember what he said to help women reset their HPA axis?
I cannot remember.
Okay, you're going to remember this because we cracked up. So the first thing he said, right, to get your circadian rhythm back, to get that energy back, to reduce inflammation, was to get sunlight in your eyes immediately upon waking. And the second thing was to stimulate your nipples for 1 minute or have an orgasm.
Oxytocin.
And the third was to eat a high protein breakfast.
And those are rules of the road to live by, for sure. What's interesting too, because I do very much keto alkaline, I do a lot more intermittent fasting, but I'm at a stage where I can do it. But there was a time post Hurricane 1, we've had Hurricane 1, Hurricane 2, Hurricane Matthew, Hurricane Irma, but we had such mold toxicity that it was just, you just had to nourish your body. There was no fasting able at that time. But I think that's so key to understand for women. Like, we can do some really strict programs at some time and some different lifestyle programs at some time, but there's always variety, right? There's an ebb and a flow to everything. There's times of feast and times of fasting. I mean, there's so much value to prolonged intermittent fasting even. I've done 3-day fast, and there's value to that, especially as we get older, that wisdom from the fasting state that, I want to say, burning fat instead of glucose for fuel, getting into that ketotic state, into a state of ketosis, more so than what we think about with ketogenic diets, the high fat, high butter, high bacon diets. We want really states of ketosis versus ketogenesis in that state of the ketogenic diet. So there's it's hard because it gets so confusing when you're looking at programs and diets and recipes. We got to look at the balance between the two and where we are at in life. Like, what's our life? What are we surrounded with? What's our stress level? What's our activity level? What are we dealing with today? What's our hormonal levels? And I think we have to take that into consideration. So there's not a specific, there's impactful principles, and there's ways and times we need to push our body. And then there's times we need to know that it's not time to push our body, and it's time to focus on nourishment, but that does not mean, binge eating or high glucose eating ever. So we have to take that into consideration too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I think it's just, really, really getting to know your body and what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And yeah. I'm really big on, doing intermittent fasting and keto, but for short periods of time, because we end up doing it for long periods of time. And anything that messes with your sleep is going to raise inflammation in a really big way.
And just getting, key to get alkaline. My audience hears this from me all the time. Get alkaline first, check, especially if you're going into a keto, more of a keto state. We want to keep your body alkaline. Getting alkaline at the same time you're in ketosis, that's pure amazing. That's pure fire, pure energy. It's a really amazing place to be. And so,
and it's where you have to be. We're doing an adrenal cleanse right now, a PCOS adrenal cleanse. And the only way that you can really provide your body with the nutrients it needs to function well is, you have to give. So with acne, with hair thinning, with weight gain, they're all nutrient deficient states. So when you talk about, making sure that whatever you do is alkaline, it's so important because it's providing those really important minerals, those nutrients that your body needs to function. We don't think about, symptoms, yucky health symptoms as a state of, basically just lack of raw materials for our bodies to function. We don't think about it that way. That's really what it is. We're just lacking, our body's lacking the nutrients, and it's having to go sort of sideways. And something that I learned with hair thinning, that's really a big deal in our community, and that can happen at any age for sure, and it's devastating for women. I know you went through that, Anna. It's a really big deal, and it's interesting because the hair follicle, so it's the same pathway, right? It's that DHT, very strong androgenic pathway that causes your hair to fall out and kind of shrinks those hair follicles. But if your body is lacking raw materials to operate on a daily basis at a some sort of level, it's not going to grow your hair back, because your hair is not something that your body needs to make happen to keep you alive. So you can think of like a hibernating bear, when it's hibernating, its metabolism goes to the absolute lowest level to keep that bear alive, but not needing much energy because it's not eating. And that's sort of what your body's doing. If you're noticing any symptoms of hormone imbalance, your body's a little bit going into hibernation mode. Your metabolism is really starting to shut down. So you got to think, what are those raw materials that I can replace, that I can give my body back so that it can start to do its thing? Because our bodies are amazing, right? Our bodies can really overcome a lot, but if they don't have the raw materials, they can't.
Yeah, that's so key. Or there's a problem with absorption, right? So we deal with that, problems with absorption all the time.
Digestion, huge.
Huge. So Robin, you have the PCOS acne solution. Tell us about that and how our clients can get involved with you.
I am so excited to share this. So it is a new creation of mine. It took quite a bit of research because, as I say, everybody's a little bit different, but, it's going to give you my 6 steps. It gives you in detail what to be doing, what to eat. You even get, meal ideas and recipes and the key nutrients like zinc and vitamin A and what doses and what forms of them. And it gives you, so we talk about all those things that are key to decreasing inflammation, like the food to eat, why sleep is so important and how to get more sleep, movement, how to exercise so you're not stressing yourself out, how to balance your hormones and what that means, because a lot of times we have no clue what that means. And then topical solutions, what can you put on your face that will really help and make a difference? And one thing I want to say is that, when you have, I remember our pediatrician telling our older son this, he says, you have oily skin like I do, is what he said. And he said, the good news to that, he said, our skin is just going to age a whole lot better than other people.
I love that. Yes, there's a positive aspect.
Because I grew up with like this shiny forehead, right? I look at pictures and I always had this shiny forehead. It's like, oh, grr. And then, after Dr. Green said that, I'm like, you rock, I'm going to age well.
Absolutely. And you're just doing amazing. You can see that you walk your talk, and I know that your program is going to be amazing. Having put together programs with you, you really know how to teach in a digestible way and bring such great recipes and wonderful fun to it. So yeah, I've really missed working with you, Robin.
I know, same here. It's so nice to talk to you today. And just, your spirit is just one that I just love. I just love your
Likewise.
spirit. You're just always so positive, and you have such great energy, and I just, yeah, love being around it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, to our audience, so Robin, tell them how they can learn more about you and get with the PCOS Acne Solution too, your new program.
So what we'll do is in your podcast, is there a button that they can click, or how can they
We'll have a link in our show notes. We'll have a link in our show notes, a link in our copy. If you're watching this on YouTube, you will see that link, or on our Couch Talk page. If you're listening on iTunes, go ahead and give that link your direct link.
Do you want me to give the direct link right now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. Okay, so let me just pull that up for you. It's I think it's just PCOS.
.com.
It's PCOS.com/acne solution guide. PCOS.com/acne solution guide. And the really cool thing is,
I think it's Acne Solutions Guide. I have here Acne Solutions with an S guide.
Well, actually,
is that correct? Without the S, Acne Solution Guide.
No S, so Acne Solution Guide.
Okay.
So I must have given it to you wrong. My apologies.
That's okay.
What you'll find is that when you implement what is in the Acne Solution Guide, so many other things are going to improve too, right? It's not just about acne. It's about acne, your weight. It's about overall decreasing inflammation and giving your body those amazing raw materials.
Yes, absolutely. All right. I want to thank all our listeners today for being with us and for joining us in our discussion with Robin Nielsen. So more about her at PCOS.com, and get her PCOS.com. Check out the Acne Solution Guide, no S, all right, Acne Solution Guide. And let me know, comment below any questions you have, any comments, what's been helping you in your life, and what are things that you have questions about. And I look forward to hearing from all of you. Please, this is good information to share. I mean, this is a generational message. We need to share this through the ages. So share this on your page, share it on Facebook. Be sure to comment back and let us know what you've learned from today's call. Robin, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you to all our audience, and look forward to you on Couch Talk next week. Thank you.